Spenuel the Black Pen. On Sunday, the 1st of December, I wrote a tweet on X. And as I make this video, today's the 3rd of December, 2024. The tweet has got 208,000 views. 208,000 views, 1,700 likes, and over 250 retweets. The tweet goes, why didn't Jacob Zuma join the PAC or ATM if his goal was to unify black parties under one? Why set up a new party? And if his goal is to fight white monopoly capital's influence in the ANC, how does he plan to fight white monopoly capital if the MK is in government? Why isn't he staging a coup directly? Now, this follows on from a tweet that I made a video about last week, where I was basically trying to figure out what's Jacob Zuma's plan with Umkhonto weSizwe. And one of the things that people were highlighting in the comments is that he was trying to create a pro-black party. He was trying to unify black people for the purposes of maybe reclaiming the spirit of the ANC. So this question was, but why would he set up something new and not join an existing pro-black, maybe Pan-Africanist party? The Pan-Africanist Congress of Robert Sobukwe is still a viable party, even though it's dwindled over the years. Sadly, it's joined the government of national unity. I say sadly on behalf of black people who are pro-black. And then the African transformation movement led by Vuyo Zumula would also have been a great vehicle. At some point, Jacob Zuma was accused of being one of the people behind this party because it seemed like a breakaway from the ANC. Why would he set up a new party? Why would he set up a new party? You know, I'm still trying to wrap my head around the idea of people defending MK and saying Jacob Zuma knew what he was doing, etc. But why was he not upfront and open about it? Why did he not say, look, as an ANC member, I would like to reclaim the spirits of the ANC, and I want to save the ANC from the white funders who have captured it, the people that are funding Cyril Ramaphosa. Why would he lie about it? Why would he pretend like someone else was behind the party, of which there was a dispute of the person who actually registered the party and Jacob Zuma at some point? Why would he only come out later? Was he trying to test the grounds? Was he actually lying? Was he trying to see if this thing will work? And then only later try and say, look, actually this thing is mine. Or what was his plan? Or maybe did he not really know what he was doing? And now he's kind of moving with whatever the sentiments of the people are to make it look cool. If his goal is to fight white monopoly capital's influence in the ANC, how does he plan to fight white monopoly capital if ever the MK is in government? Or if ever the MK ends up infiltrating the ANC again and he reclaims the ANC? This is the same Jacob Zuma that was deputy president of the ANC for 2 terms under ex-president Thabo Mbeki. This is the same Jacob Zuma who was president of the ANC for 2 terms. What is different now? Besides that, he's a bit older. What would make him join the ANC and effect change? Because while he was in the ANC, he had a lot of supporters. You know, we've got this whole concept of a radical economic transformation faction because of him. And yes, he probably had started doing some work, you know, with some of the transformation that had happened at Eskom, some of the transformation at Transnet, some of the transformation at the SAPC, some of the transformation at Treasury. Is he trying to maybe carry on with that project, maybe uninterrupted, because maybe he got interrupted by another faction, being the Ramaphosa faction? But how would he stop white monopoly capital from disrupting him as they arguably disrupted him now when he was president of the ANC before? I don't quite understand. Or has he gotten different allies? Could he not have gotten these allies while he was president of the country and president of the ANC to say, look, the West and some of the white people in South Africa are not pushing in the best interests of the majority or black people. So now we've got an ally. Was he waiting for BRICS to get stronger? Was he waiting for something else that has now taken effect and now things are going to change? How does the MK argue for the people that are still not voting? We've got 40 million eligible voters in South Africa and still not even half of them are voting, which means people, for whatever reason, do not believe in this democratic system to a point where they're not willing to put in the work to go and vote. And how would MK be any different? For me, it feels like a lot of games. It feels like a lot of continuing to distract the black majority in this country. Jacob Zuma was part of the ANC for a long time. And to this day, yes, he's spoken out against apartheid. Yes, he's spoken out against the clutches of white minority wealth. Yes, he's spoken up for transformation and the like. But while he was part of the ANC, they never fundamentally ring-fenced and moved the land back to the people, at least the land that was taken by the apartheid government. He didn't do it. While he was there, Julius Malema of the EFF today was kicked out of the ANC to form the EFF. Jacob Zuma did not defend him. Jacob Zuma did not keep him in, where today he wants to create these progressive black forces of which he wants to work with the EFF. But back at that time, Julius Malema was pushing for exactly the same things that MK claims to be standing for now. Transformation, getting the land back in the hands of the people, especially expropriation without compensation, making sure that they nationalize and push the nationalization agenda. What was stopping Jacob Zuma from doing this while he was in the ANC at the time? Was he captured? Can he confess to us that he was captured? And is he not captured now? How is it different? Or is it just a matter of he still craves power and he realizes he can't get it in the ANC and he wants to get it via the MK? Or do they have another plan that is different from the EFF, different from the ANC, before maybe Nelson Mandela came into power in 1994? Some of the comments that I got under this tweet. Someone saying that the PAC is now part of the GNU. Your question shouldn't have arisen, which I think it should. I spoke to one of the leaders of the PAC and they said, look, they're happy to join the MK and other progressive forces if ever they have influence. They made a decision to join the parties that have influence, but they still stand for pro-black. They still pan-Africanist in their outlook. They just wanted to be on a ship that's moving so that they can effect change. And I believe they have a ministry as well. Sorry, I just want to reference the person. At Vote MK Party was that handle. At Buhle the First, the BZA. Coups are very messy. And you either win big or lose big. A good player would avoid a situation like that when he doesn't have a guarantee of the outcome. Also, do the parties that you've mentioned have the same exact strategy that the MK does? Because if not, it was indeed better to start his own. What better than to build from your vision and become the change you wish to see? Coups are extremely messy, but at least they are honest. They are upfront. You are stating that not only do we want to topple the ANC, but we want to topple the leading regime of the country. By leading regime, I'm saying whoever's running and funding the DA, whoever's running and funding the ANC, we do not like where this country is going and who are at the helm. He's still not speaking out clearly, at least from my understanding, to say that Cyril Ramaphosa has been captured. Cyril Ramaphosa fundamentally paid and bribed people at the ANC conference to become president. He's not saying it to a point where he should be saying the ANC should open a case, because this is violating ANC codes, and find the proof and the evidence to say these are the people, so that we also know these are the people in the ANC who took money from Cyril Ramaphosa and his funders to vote for him as opposed to Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. Say it. Don't be wishy-washy. Let us know. And coups don't have to be violent, at least from my understanding. A coup could be you saying, look, we will protest, we will march, we will infiltrate certain institutions because we want to topple the regime on behalf of the people. Again, my question stands. Once they have taken over the country, which Jacob Zuma has had the opportunity and the privilege of running the country, how will he do things different? And how can he maybe promise that rich white people won't leave the country? Rich white people won't stop investing in the country. That rich white people won't protest. That rich white people won't bring in America and get America to maybe cancel deals. Maybe get parts of Europe to cancel deals. Has he maybe created such strong allies with the China, with an India, with the Russia, and other BRICS nations, including the Middle East, that is so strong that they don't mind losing the West? And if that's the case, then why not be open about it? Why not say, look, the MK is ready to scrap some of the economic deals with the West? I mean, Donald Trump right now is threatening that any of the BRICS nations that are not going to use the dollar, that are going to be de-dollarizing, they are going to punish them with 100% tariffs. Whether he follows through or not doesn't matter. The bottom line is he's laid down the gauntlet to explain where he stands. Jacob Zuma and MK leaders can do the same and say, this is where we stand. We are ready to cut ties with AGOA and America. We are ready to cut ties with the UK. We are ready to cut ties with Western Europe. We understand that these people may want to sanction us if we change the way the country is run, if we change the constitution, if we change the legal framework, if we transform the economy, if we take land that was meant for the people. We may be sanctioned, but we're fine with the sanctions because we have created economic partners that can replace them. So that the rest of us can ask, if that's the case, why not do that already? Why wait? Why does the MK first need to get into the ANC? Why does the MK need to get into government if they can start doing this work? I say this because China, Russia, India, the Middle East, they already trade with South Africa. So it wouldn't be a secret. It's not a sanctioned country trading with South Africa. It would be the same countries that we're trading with and us saying, we have had conversations with them and they're ready to replace these guys. Or, again, are we being lied to? Let's see here. Ndogozo Masuku at vis_SS. Umsholozi understands that these parties lack the mass appeal and influence to truly challenge the ANC white monopoly capital axis. Creating a new party consolidates his support base while sending a direct message to white monopoly capital and the ANC elite. Why stage a coup when you can dismantle the system from the outside and rebuild it for true liberation? Zuma's playing chess while others are stuck playing checkers. Mandla the Fighter at Pegu Pegu. Good question, bro. To add to that, why isn't Jacob Zuma trying to recruit members from parties like the DA, the Freedom Front Plus, Action SA, and ACDP if his goal is to unite black people? It's strange that there's no longer talk of displacing the ANC, but to save it from itself. That is very, very key. It's strange that there's no longer talk of displacing the ANC, but to save it from itself. This is one of the conversations people are not having. We are saying that the ANC has failed in 30 years to fundamentally transform the lives of the people, the majority, black people, poor people. Why would Jacob Zuma, who claims that he's for black people, who claims that he's for liberation, why is he not focusing on liberating black people? Why is he not focusing on transforming or the transformation agenda? Why is his goal to save the ANC? Why not let it die? Just Xavier had said last week that, look, Jacob Zuma understands that the ANC is the only party that has the structures that are strong enough to actually run the whole country and has the allies globally. But if Jacob Zuma believes that, and if Jacob Zuma believes no other party can build, then it means Jacob Zuma doesn't believe any party can dismantle the ANC. And it means that he believes that everyone should still be voting for the ANC, even when the ANC is failing the people. And instead of focusing on growing MK, growing other black parties, etc., he would rather focus so much on saving the ANC. There is nothing stopping whoever takes over from taking over the structures of the ANC and changing the names and changing the colors and changing the t-shirts. Those are semantics. You can even have the same people but serving a different agenda. But this obsession with saving an ANC that has fundamentally shown that it's not about the people. It is about black economic empowerment for the few. It is about tenders for friends. It is about tenders in state-owned enterprises for friends. It is about looting and corruption and enriching a few as well. It may be different black faces from the current faces, but it's just new black faces that are also coming to loot and. And if those faces had done such a brilliant job, then people would not have wanted Zuma to leave, or people would have pushed for Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma to be president, or people would have ensured that they save the ANC. So what's different now? Why focus so much on saving the ANC instead of serving black people, including black people that are in the DA, the Freedom Front, Action SA, and other such parties? Let's see here. Malzy Peters, at Malzy Peters says, because he isn't interested in some black unity as he claims. His interest is to lead a vehicle which will reclaim the ANC. He's not even interested in disrupting how the ANC works. He has been part of it. He has been part of this problem for the past 20 years without complaining after all. 30 years. Malzy goes on to subtweet themselves and says, to understand him, you need to go back to when he started the Biko light rhetoric. He started when Bell Pottinger gave him reading lines towards 2016-17, when it became obvious that he was to lose power. In the 20 years before then, he agreed with everything. At Man of Steel 19901 says, this is return of the Rand value. Junior is their Twitter name. Joining the PAC would have been ideal. I don't think the PAC and other leaders thought it through that Jay-Z still has influence. We are witnessing the rise of a phoenix. Also, had he spoken to them like he did before registering his party, intelligence would have blocked him. That's an argument. This could also be the argument for why he wasn't as vocal and as upfront about setting up the MK. But for me, it just puts credibility and it makes me not trust. Because if the MK project wasn't doing well, he would have distanced himself and made it seem as if he was not involved. And it would make you ask, was he involved in maybe parties like the ATM and other breakaways? And because maybe they didn't do as well or they didn't get as much traction, he decided to remain in the shadows. And it's only because MK was doing so well that he decided to come to the front, along with Advocate Dalimpofu, who would go on later to say, once he leaves the EFF to join MK, that he was one of the people that was involved in founding the MK. To be like, if MK didn't work out, he would have kept quiet. Which means there are a lot of political leaders, maybe in different parties, who are maybe part of certain sinister moves in the background that we're not aware of, and they'll only come out once these things work. This is where Prof. J.J. Tabane's accusations of Tito Mboweni, Trevor Manuel, and others being involved in the formation of COPE, the Congress of the People, to be like, maybe if COPE had done really, really well, as well as MK, maybe Tito Mboweni, Trevor Manuel, and others would have been come forward and said, we were actually involved in this thing. And maybe many more other people, maybe ex-President Thabo Mbeki would have also come forward, like Jacob Zuma, to say, actually, this is my project. And they could have also argued, well, we're trying to save the ANC from Jacob Zuma and these other people, as Jacob Zuma is saying now. For me, I still ask, if you guys have such clashing ideologies, if you guys are so split on views on how to run the country, why not just split indefinitely? Why not just break the ANC, make it, let's say, a COPE faction and say, this is who we are. Make it an MK faction and say, this is who we are. And be like, we do not see eye to eye. This is not black unity. This is a unity around certain ideologies that clash, instead of lying and pretending in front of the people. At Comrade MDU, the activist on Twitter says, ask why he was unable to do it in the ANC, and I definitely asked this. Political parties have got a cancer of loving money. White monopoly capital are the owners of the big money. You can't fight them in the poorly formed organizations like those that you mentioned. They are controlled by white monopoly capital, so a new formation was needed. Let's see here. At Nisha PU, Laveti Nisha PU says, what history do they have in the name of their parties? President Zuma could have joined the EFF as Malema wanted him, but it has no history, and so are those parties. Zuma is a struggle soldier, so joining a non-historical party is off. MK is part of our struggle history, and this is actually not true because the PAC was fundamental as an anti-apartheid, a pro-liberation movement. Let's see here. Atom _Sbia says the PAC is functionally defunct. ATM has no mass appeal. By the way, the functionally defunct may be true, but if you're speaking about pro-black and you bring in Jacob Zuma and other people, he could have resurrected it. It already has some structures instead of building something new. ATM has no mass appeal. It may not have mass appeal, but again, having the Jacob Zuma effect could have made a change. MK, to be honest, also didn't have mass appeal. The EFF is more plausible, but it has a niche, black youth appeal. Zuma wooed EFF leadership to lead MK together with Jabulani Kumalo. Malema refused. EFF leadership agreed with Uzuma. Yeah, let me stop there for now. What's going to be interesting is what happens in 2026 when we have the local elections. Yes, they may not be the national elections, but we will have seen by then how well MK's traction has grown. How much MK maybe is able to infiltrate local municipalities, wards, especially because come 2026, local municipalities are going to be voted for. Come 2026, ward councillors are going to be voted for. So are people in wards going to say, no, we're now ready for MK ward councillors to run our wards and to see how that looks? Number two, are we going to be seeing MK taking over municipalities and having mayors in different parts? And what is that going to look like? One of the things that makes me sad is that we are seeing the same old politicians joining these structures. The same old people that have failed to transform much, whether they were still in the ANC, whether they joined the EFF, etc. Same people. And yet we're expecting a different outcome. Why? Because Jacob Zuma says so. I've been a huge fan of Jacob Zuma for many years, specifically just as a man. His pride for his culture, his pride as a Zulu man, the way he's proud of being a polygamist and unashamed, his love for children and it being evident in the number of children that he's had, his love for black people and the poor, his push and fight and provocation of the rich elite. But I'm not naive to think that much will change. Zuma has been in the ANC all his life. He still claims he's an ANC member and still claims he wants to be in the ANC. I believe for myself, in terms of leadership, and specifically black leadership, I will start buying into an idea where I see fundamental change and work. I get attacked for this a lot, and I don't mind because I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm learning. Seeing what AfriForum has done for the Afrikaner community, challenging government, fighting for the rights of Afrikaans people and other minority groups. Seeing what the leaders of Orania have done in building a space that is for Afrikaans people, building schools, building infrastructure, building an economy. That is real, that is fundamental. When Andile Mngxitama left the EFF and created Black First Land First, the BLF, which he left later on to join MK, all I was hoping that he would do is he would copy the model of AfriForum and say, we are fundraising. We are raising money because it's not about politics and noise. It's not about sitting in parliament. It's not about being popular. It's about working for the people. So if you can contribute 50 Rand, 100 Rand, and we will fundraise from black entrepreneurs, we will fundraise from black institutions, we will fundraise even from colored Indian and white people that are sympathetic to the black dilemma in this country. We will take this money, we will buy up land for the people, and we will hand it over to the people, and they will see us. If this land must sit in trust, like in Ngonyama Trust land, we will do so. I saw an article the other day speaking about Dumisu Zulu, the king of the Zulus, saying that he's ready to relinquish his role or his leadership position in Ngonyama Trust as long as they dissolve the current board. Is this Misu Zulu now selling out and giving the trust to other people? We don't know. Mngxitama could have said, either we're giving the land to the people themselves, or we will set up a trust and we will continue buying land, 100 hectares, 1,000 hectares, 10,000 hectares, 100,000 hectares, 1 million hectares. And Mngxitama could say, we were focused on land. We now have 1 million hectares of land under trust, under BLF. Some of it is given to the people to work for farmland. Some of it is property development. Some of it is residential. Some of it is for tourism. But we have given land to the people, and so many people would have bought into that idea. So many of us would have funded that, along with fighting in the courts against the government to push for land restitution, for land reform, fighting for skills training of black people to work the land, which he claims to stand for. I thought that he would do that, but I realized that this guy is just power hungry and wants to be in government, which is proven now. I thought that maybe people like Jacob Zuma, people like Judge John Hlophe, would set up a fund to say, we are setting up a fund because we are challenging the constitution. I'm going to bring the brightest black, colored, Indian, maybe white minds, legal minds. And we are going to challenge the constitution on how it oppresses and exploits human rights, on how the constitution has not been upheld, and there's not been real transformation. The economy has not been given to the people. Land has not been given to the people, and the previously disadvantaged have not been assisted, to a point of even challenging matters like Phala Phala, etc. They have not done that. I thought there was going to be a push to build schools, which was going to be like, no, our fundamental push is to decolonize education. We want schools that teach in mother tongues, in isiZulu, isiXhosa, Sesotho, Sepedi, Setswana, isiNdebele, etc. We're going to push for schools to teach real skills. AfriForum, along with Solidarity, would build Soltech. Today, they're in the process of building Afrikaans private schools called Academia. They are doing work. They are doing service delivery in communities. I thought I'd see BLF, I'd see MK setting up these branches that are going around cutting grass, that are going around picking up dirt, that are going around filling potholes, that are going around ensuring that schools are being cleaned, schools are being painted, infrastructure is being fixed. That is not happening. We are seeing more political games. And the black majority, poor black people, are again being distracted from what's important, which is ensuring that they infiltrate the spaza shop network and they rebuild and reclaim the spaza shop so that they own the basic economy in townships. That they ensure that their colleges be rebuilt for the purposes of skills training. That their schools get used as functional spaces to teach children skills. That they will ring fence the land that they need and ensure that they have leaders that are making sure that they get the land and they're working the land. Instead, what's happening is just, since 1994, the ANC came into power. Certain black people made sure that they got extremely rich. Other black people didn't get rich and got disgruntled, the so-called non-clever blacks. They eventually came into power under Jacob Zuma. They were very happy. A lot of them got into tenders, they got into certain positions, and they started eating, and it was delicious and it was nice. Cyril Ramaphosa would come in and arguably bribe his way into a presidency, and he would reverse some of those gains of these not clever blacks that didn't benefit from the first wave of BEE. He would come in, ensure the status quo, would come in, ensure that white people are still comfortable and are protected as the ANC had protected them when they came in power in 1994. And he'd retain the status quo and make sure that South Africa is still serving the West and rich white people. Jacob Zuma would be upset, he'd leave, and then he'd find this vehicle called MK because the EFF had not done a good job. And some people argue the EFF is still captured today. He'd go and set up this MK, which now is trying to go back to Zuma's 9 wasted years, but 9 glory days for the people that support him, including the Guptas and others, to say we want to go back and carry on with our project to make sure that the Brian Molifes and the Matsela Kokos and others come in and they start eating. Maybe because the agenda is to say we want to create a proper industrial group of black people to mimic the Johan Ruperts, to mimic the Christo Visas, to mimic the Yanni Moutons, to mimic the Brian Joffeys, to mimic the Nati Kirsches. We didn't get to do that. We want to do that. And Cyril Ramaphosa's ANC is not doing that. Even though it's given us Cyril Ramaphosa, it's given us Patrice Motsepe, it's given us Phuthuma Nhleko, it's given us Saki Macozoma and other wealthy black people as well. But maybe they have not done or not become as wealthy or as influential as some of the other white people. We want to do that. And be honest and let people know. I see Julius Malema now is on a podcast tour. I appreciate it because the EFF podcast is not doing as well as maybe they anticipated. A lot of people think podcasting is easy. He sat with DJ Spo on the Hustler's Corner. He's sat with David Mashabela on King David Studios. I think he's been sitting on other platforms as well. I appreciate it. I don't know if this is an act of humility on his part or the realization that, look, maybe my voice is not being heard the way I'd like, and I'm losing leadership. I'm hoping he's going to be sitting with Dr. Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh soon on SMWX, which seems to be the premier politics podcast in South Africa at the moment. Of course, State of the Nation with Mark Champagne and another one. I see Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh is going to be sitting with Helen Seller coming up as well. We still don't know what's going to be happening, but for me, a lot of this is still distraction. A lot of people are still not voting. They don't believe in this democracy. They don't believe in the so-called bogus capitalism that we have. We keep seeing an increase in unemployment. We keep seeing an increase in social grant recipients and other social welfare. We keep seeing the borders not being fixed, including by these so-called new leaders of the MK and others. They're still not focusing on the sovereignty of this country. And no one is trying to help upskill black people, to set up funds where black people are getting the land back, where black people are building education institutions that upskill people, that black people are being trained on how to run the economy, to mimic the Indians, to mimic the Pakistanis, to mimic the Ethiopians, to mimic the Somalians, to mimic white monopoly capital and how it moves. Getting black business people, just like you saw the list of some of the donors, the Oppenheimers, the Hersofs, and others, that are donating to political parties, to get black people to say, we want to see your names there, donating to political parties if politics is the vehicle. And if politics is not the vehicle, can we create a Zulu, Xhosa, Ndebele AfriForum? Can we create a Sesotho Gift of the Givers? Can we create a Setswana NGO that focuses on land? Can we use vehicles like the Shembe Church? Can we use vehicles like the ZCC Church? Can we use other vehicles, the Ingonyama Trust, to say, but here's black land. This is the potential of what black land can do. We are going to ensure that Zulu people on Ingonyama Trust become wealthy, like the Royal Bafokeng, to say we will become wealthy and we will benefit the people. We will build the schools and the institutions and buy up the sports teams like AmaZulu and maybe the Sharks, the rugby team. This is what Zulu people can do with power, with good leadership. But that doesn't seem to be happening. There's an obsession again with politics, and it's getting people nowhere except fighting with each other and a continuous fragmentation of black people, from the ANC to COPE to the EFF to the ATM to the PA to the MK now, constantly breaking apart, all of them claiming black unity, but everyone trying to get seats in parliament, everyone trying to get access to ministerial positions, everyone trying to get access to budgets, everyone trying to get money from SOEs, everyone trying to get the tax kitty. I'll stop there. Look forward to your comments. Pin you all the black pen. Cheers.